Hey, friend, welcome to Less Stress, More Joy with Amy Leneker. It's me, Amy, and I am so glad that you're here. This is the podcast for everyone who has ever woken up on a Monday morning already exhausted or spent Sunday night bracing yourself for the week ahead. I am here to tell you that the problem isn't you. The problem is work. And more specifically, the problem is stress. We have been sold a lie, an exhausting, soul sucking lie that stress is the price of success. But it's not. It's the thief that steals it. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So settle in, take a deep breath, and let's get started. I get asked all of the time from leaders and teams, where should I start? We know that stress is high. We know that joy isn't where we want it to be. What should we do? What action should we take? And that's what I want to share with you today. I led a national research study called The State of Stress and Joy at Work. If you don't already have it, we will drop a link to it in the show notes. You can also download the study on my website at amyleneker.com. There's a research tab and you can find it right there. Toward the end of that study, I talk about 5 things that you can do right now. And let's go through them. Because if you have been feeling high levels of stress, if you've been feeling low levels of joy, let's look at what can you do at work. What are 5 actions that leaders and teams and organizations can do? The first one is to stop overwhelming people and start protecting capacity. We have talked a lot on this podcast about my research that shows joy is the feeling we experience at work when we've got meaning in our work, mattering in our relationships, and momentum in our progress. An overwhelming workload is the single biggest barrier to joy at work. When leaders can provide reasonable priorities and protect capacity, joy increases and performance improves. We've got to stop overwhelming people and start protecting capacity. And I recognize how challenging that can be. I know that it's easy to say. I know in practice how hard it can be to do. I just spent yesterday with a state agency. I live in the state of Washington. I spent yesterday with a state agency here in my state. And most of the day was about this exact topic. They are being asked to do more with less. Budgets are being reduced. It feels like they're being asked to do more and more and more. And that is not sustainable. We know that intuitively, cognitively, we know that this isn't sustainable. And yet we simply keep asking people to do the impossible. So step number 2, stop ignoring stress and start addressing it together. When we expect people to just figure it out on their own, it doesn't work. Stress is contagious, and activated nervous systems influence other nervous systems. And it's why it feels like stress can spread like wildfire at work, or even like a virus, the same way that if you are working in an office and someone has a cold, and by the next week, everybody has a cold, the same thing happens with stress. Even though stress isn't technically an emotion, stress is a physiological change. It's not technically an emotion. It's often referred to as an emotion because of all the emotions that are connected. When we feel stress, there might be frustration or sadness or overwhelm or anger or whatever it is, fill in the blank. But that's why stress is contagious. And in fact, the American Psychological Association talks about stress and anxiety as the emotion of community. because very rarely can someone be feeling high amounts of stress and anxiety and other people around them not pick up on it. It's why I love sharing the unstressing method with leaders and teams that I work with. When we tested it, 96% of working Americans, the vast majority of working Americans, said that using it helped them understand and manage their stress more effectively. We have got to stop ignoring stress. We have to start addressing it together. Third, stop faking positivity and start creating real conditions for real joy. One thing that I don't know if I would say it surprised me, but I think it was what I hoped to not see. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's not that I was surprised, but it was disappointing that the majority of working Americans say that they feel pressure to stay positive at work. The problem with that, when we are feeling forced to stay positive, it causes exhaustion. It erodes trust in relationships and it actually weakens the connection that we have. It weakens our connection to each other and the connection that we have to work. Forced positivity, forced fun, those things do not produce joy. Joy occurs at work when we have meaning in what we do, when we have mattering in our relationships, when we've got momentum in our progress. And so stop faking positivity. Stop pretending like everything is okay when it's not, and start creating conditions for joy. We did a whole episode on this podcast about the Stockdale Paradox, this ability to hold two conflicting realities at one time. And just the 2-minute version, in case you didn't hear that episode, or maybe a quick refresh if you did. The Stockdale Paradox is named after Admiral Jim Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war in the Vietnam War. He was the highest ranking officer, and so he was treated, as you can imagine, horribly. After the war was over and he was asked, how did you survive when so many people around you didn't? What is it that you did? And this interview comes from Jim Collins, who went on to use this interview with Admiral Stockdale in his book, From Good to Great. And Admiral Stockdale talked about, he confronted the harsh reality of what was really happening, but he never lost hope that things were going to get better. He went on to say that the people that he saw perish first, those that didn't make it, he thought were the optimists, that they thought we're going to be out by Christmas or we're going to get rescued by Easter or whatever it was. And then that thing would come and go. And from his perception, people died of a broken heart. And so that's the reality of holding these two conflicting things at one time, that you are absolutely appreciating the harsh reality of the time and not losing hope that things are going to get better. If you're a leader who errs too far in one direction, people around you are going to struggle. If you only talk about how bad things are, it's hard for people to get on board with that. It's hard for people to follow a North Star if it's only about the challenges. And if you only talk about the fact that things are going to get better, but you're not confronting the reality of today, then people question you too. They wonder, what planet are they on? Are they working in the same place that we are? So stop faking positivity, start creating conditions for real joy. The fourth action I would recommend is stop blaming generations and start redesigning work. Every minute that we spend blaming generations or stereotyping or judging the way a different generation is showing up at work is a minute that we're actually not problem solving. In my latest research study, younger Americans experience all 5 types of work stress more often and with greater impact than older generations. When we talk about the 5 kinds of work stress, It's schedule, suspense, social, sudden, and system. And younger workers experience all 5 of those more often and with greater impact than older generations. We've got to understand that so that leaders and teams and organizations can help prioritize, can help redesign, because it's not just the amount of stress, it's also to what degree that stress is impacting us. And the fifth thing I would offer is to stop confusing urgent with important and to start pausing for clarity. Anyone who has read Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you already know this, that urgent and important are not the same thing. We've got to pause and get clear on what is it that we're dealing with. Sudden stress, the fourth type of the 5 types of work stress, was shown to have the greatest negative impact on joy and performance. Sudden stress is that urgent, something has happened, it's unexpected, you've got to take an action, you've got to make a decision. And even though schedule stress was the most common, sudden stress had the most negative impact. So we've got to understand that we need to stop confusing urgent with important and start pausing for clarity. Today's episode was short. It was designed to be a quick, here's where we can start. Here's how we can take an action today to have less stress and more joy at work. So let's recap the 5 really quickly. And if you are driving or you're out on a walk with your dog, we will drop these in the show notes. They are part of the State of Stress and Joy National Research Study, and you can also find it on amyleneker.com. So 1, stop overwhelming people, start protecting capacity. Number 2, stop ignoring stress, start addressing it together. Number 3, stop faking positivity and start creating conditions for joy. Number 4, stop blaming generations, start redesigning work. And number 5, stop confusing urgent with important and start pausing for clarity. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Less Stress and More Joy. If you loved this episode, and I hope that you did, please share it, follow. It helps other listeners find their way to less stress and more joy. If you want to go deeper on what we talked about today, you can do that. Cheers to Monday is available wherever books are sold, or please request it at your local library. You all know I love a good library. If anything today sparked a question, email me, amy@amyleneker.com. I read every single message, and I would love to hear from you. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Less stress, more joy, zero toxic positivity. That's the Joyful Rebellion.